Hello and welcome again to another edition of Health Matters. This is a presentation by the Fortified City International Ministries here in Minnesota, USA. Tonight, I'm happy that I have another um, interesting topic for us to be discussing, and we're going to be talking about our educational health. And I have some very, very wonderful, committed, and dedicated uh, panel guests with me here tonight. Some are regular contributors to this Health Matter program, and one person is new. But I'm going to give us the platform so we can properly do what we know how to do, introduce ourselves. I want to start with uh, our newest, contributor to Health Matters. And he's going to be introducing himself. Last minute of time, when I called him, he said, it's only because of, he called the person name. And then I said, well, thank God. Next time it's going to be because you already know us and you coming on. But I'm glad he accepted our invitation. And it's good to have you here, Cici. So you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And then we're going to go around, and then we'll start with you, and then Abby, and then Mr. Jensen.
Okay. Well, first thing, I'm grateful to be here. I count this as a blessing. I was joking you last night when I said, man, I can squeeze myself in here. But every time your community can recognize that you're doing something and they call on you, I think it behooves you to kind of move your schedule around because um, we are all blessed to be in this blessed country, not because we did anything great. It's just blessing. So my name is Cesar Goya. I am a math teacher here in the state of Minnesota. I teach 11th and 12th grade mathematics at the Brooklyn Center Secondary School, and then during the summer, I teach at North Hennepin Tech.
Thank you so much, Abby.
Hi, my name is Abby Tyler. Most of you already know me. I am a family nurse practitioner and health contributor here. I work in a private practice in Philadelphia and married mother of two, and I'm happy to be here once again. And hi to my fellow panelists.
Thank you, Abby. Jensen.
I'm I'm James N. Jensen. I had my primary, secondary education, uh, college education in Liberia, and I went to law school in Liberia. Got admitted to practice law in Liberia. I came to the United States, and I went to Penn State and got my master's in law. So once again, I'm glad to be here. And just as the brother said, society places obligation on those who have strived to reach certain level in life to continue to uh, start a discussion for purposes of getting society to be better. So once again, I'm glad to be here, and the topic is interesting. It has to do with what Helen Keller said: education has developed the mind and talent of individuals. So the reason why we're here, not for ourselves, but we hope our generation, people will begin to look at some of the processes that lead to quality education. So once again, I'm good. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, every one of you, um, for coming. Today, like I said earlier, our topic is educational health. We want to look at what are some of the factors affecting, education in Liberia. I was looking at um, the WIEC results, and I saw that 32.83% of some of the children, their results were withheld because of some kind of malpractice, or they listed the different categories of malpractices that took place. And uh, and I look at the information that was provided, and I see that most of the students that scored very high, they were students from private schools. What they have here, I don't see any student that came from, the government school, that school, like in the top, bracket. I did not see that. I could be, mistaken, but I have here the statistics and I don't see that. And I also see that um, there are a lot of private schools instead of government schools. So I have also some videos that we might not be able to bring up tonight. Some schools that you see that the the building, it's not even conducive for the students, and they don't have the proper instructional materials and everything, and there's so much going on. So uh, this discussion is more like we want to dig a little bit deeper. What is wrong with the school system? What is wrong? We are talking about from grade 1 all the way to grade 12, you know. And we also want to look at how we can help, make some recommendations to solve, those things that we see that are wrong, and the different options that are available. So I want to start with our teacher here tonight because he's experienced, and he's the right person to ask when it comes to classroom, and the different kinds of uh, instruction that should be given when it comes to the classroom environment. So I know you're not stranger, Sisi. I know you're not stranger to our educational system because you came from back home. But comparing the system here and the system in Liberia is, we can't even compare them. But we want to give a little intro statement what we think is wrong with our educational system.
So yeah, so just for the viewership, I actually also taught in Liberia before I came to the US. So I've been in the classroom as a teacher in Liberia, and I've been in the classroom as a teacher here in the United States. My first job, fresh out of high school, was to become a teacher in Liberia.
Wow.
So when kids get McDonald's job here, my McDonald's job was becoming a teacher. So I've been in the field for a little bit. What is different is well, first thing, what is the same is that we are all trying to educate the future leaders, right? We're trying to create an area where students will come and feel free to exchange ideas and to be able to move our country forward or to be able to move humanity forward. That is what education is about, whether we're in Liberia or we're here in the United States. Now, the differences are that, well, there is poverty here. So we do have that here, but the poverty is more pronounced in Liberia. And what that leads to is access. You were just talking about public schools not scoring too high on the WIEC versus private school. Well, there's access. Students whose parents, like some of us, whose parents have to toil, you have to sometimes you 4, 5, 6 months salary to send your child to a quote unquote better school, meaning the private schools, and other people who couldn't afford that have to send their kids to the public schools. And there is not a competition at all between private and public schools. You can see the data. You can actually even see the quality of teachers they attract. You can also see the commitment of teachers to the schools, right? The commitment of public school teachers to public schools is not as pronounced and it's not as important as the commitment of those same teachers who some of them even have a private school jobs. So they take the private schools more seriously. They account a lot more to the private school than they do to the public school. The other thing is, and that leads to quality, right? So we're talking access, we're talking quality, and we're talking accountability. Those are the biggest problems that we see. For me, if I want to say Liberia versus American schools, you were just talking about WIEC. So I have my own bias against WIAC. I don't even think we should be taking WIAC. I think we should go back to national exams where we write we write an assessment based on our own national curriculum. Before I came on, I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to say something that was outdated. I went back to the Ministry of Education website to try to see if their curriculum is there. We don't have curriculums listed online. Okay. So if I am in Lofa County teaching, what curriculum am I teaching? Do I have to come to the ministry and get a set of curriculum printed and take with me? If I lose that, what am I teaching to? The next thing is accountability. When you take WIAC here in the United States, in the state of Minnesota, for example, where you live, we take the Minnesota Comprehensive Exam, the MCA, which is almost like the WIAC. You take that and you get a score. And just like you were looking at the statistics, we look at students, we look at a passing rate, we look at demographic, right? So that would be gender based, or that will be based on race, or that will also be based on social economic status. We parse the data on all of those pieces, and then we start to hold teachers accountable. Why is it that most of your students aren't passing? And then we try to hold administrators accountable. Why is your school failing? Right? And then we start to hold state actors accountable. Because if my school is failing 2-3 years in a row, we don't continue to send students in there and we know that their system is not working. Without sending people to say, okay, this school is failing, school A is failing. We need people that are at school B that are passing to send some of them here to mentor school A, because we don't want to keep sending kids in there and keep getting them to fail the WIAC. That is missing. When the WIAC result comes out in Liberia, we celebrate those who pass and we kind of shame those who fail. And then we start calling schools out and say that school is a failing school. Oh, you go to that school, everybody can fail in that school, or that school is come, let's graduate. Well, why are we still keeping that school operational? Why? Because kids are going to go there if it's open. We're talking about access. So why? So for me, my biggest issues is accountability, right? When we talk about WIAC, we don't ever use that to coach teachers to say, why are your students failing? What is the coaching that you need? We don't do that. Right? We don't relegate schools. But when you play football in Liberia, if you come last, LFA relegate you to either Division 2 or Division 3.
That's right.
For schools. So I'm going to stop there for now. I think my panelists have something to say. But
Yeah.
I'm talking, poverty, quality, access, accountability. Those are the biggest issues that affect our school system in Liberia.
We'll come to Abby.
And you pretty much covered most of it. Over here, also, we're talking about in Liberia, we never place any emphasis on public schools. But over here, you also have like the tax bracket. People have their homes. You have register homes, street addresses and everything. People their social security number, and you do taxes and all that can help with the schools. So schools in poor district, where like low income districts, they won't be as effective as the one, or in a richer district, but at least they meet the basic criteria. And everything is regulated. The teachers and everything, they have to have their degrees. They have to go through continuing education. The schools, everybody who is involved with the students and all that, you have to meet certain criteria. In Liberia, basically, I have family and friends there. Basically, you have money, you open a school, that's it. You hire students, you hire teachers, and everybody makes their own curriculum. There's no national thing that anybody follows. Even if it was there, there's nobody enforcing it. So basically, it's the same thing with every other the sector in Liberia. There's no accountability. There's no enforcement of anything. So you just do whatever you want to do. Even in the same way you build your school, you can build it somewhere next to a store, and somewhere it's just like, there's no zoning code. So anybody can do anything. So the safety of the students and all of that come into play. None of that is like taken into factor when you do anything in Liberia. So the government officials and the people who have money, they're not sending their children to that school, those schools in the neighborhood. So it's like, they don't care. Even if they care, they're like, okay, we'll give you a little bit here and there, and we do that. So when you say that these kids are going to school every year, they're going to fail in school. And most of the teachers, like I heard, they're not really even educated anyways. There's most of the college students already barely made it through college, and they're teaching for pamphlets. The students don't have the books. So basically, you see this whole thing is like cycle of just failure or mediocrity, and these kids are growing up in the same environment where these other kids are going to better schools. So they're going to grow up and they're not going to get better jobs. The job market is poor also. So you just saying there and they just continue being in poverty while this other group is going to keep on going higher. And it's kind of saddening because I remember when our association, when we send our applications for children to sign up for the scholarship programs, most of these kids there, they had to write little, I think, couple of paid, essays and stuff, maybe 3 paragraph essays, basic, English. They even know it. I mean, the subject, verb, everything, nothing. It was just, I'm like, these kids are in the 4th and 5th grade. This one's in the high school, and this is how they're writing, And these are the poorest of poor because we're not going to support somebody who can afford to go to a rich school. So if they don't even have that, and then you say, oh yeah, we're going to pay for the YA fields, but their scores and all that and the test, if they don't have like a basic minimum to even reach to that to take the test, what then, all the statistics saying they're not passing that, the problem is way before they even get there. So you have to go all the way back and see that this is the reason why they're not passing it. So I mean, people know what the reasons are. They know it. Everybody knows it, but it's just something we play lip service to every time, and
we're not doing anything about it.
Right.
Chelsea, you want to respond to the question? You muted. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and my two panelists. I write on course as regards the topic under discussion. What are the factors influencing the educational system in Liberia? Let me just give you my own little example or experience in Liberia. Liberia had a very good educational system in the past. When you talk about private and public schools, when I attended Tottenham High, that was an outstanding public school. Very outstanding public school. Because I can tell you, when we were studying chemistry, we had a curriculum. The teachers were under obligation to follow the curriculum of the Ministry of Education. So I do not know what is happening in Liberia, whether the private schools have separate curriculum or whether the public schools have separate curriculum or what have you. But to look at the issue, the factors affecting the educational system, I would want to look at in these different categories. What kinds of teachers and teaching methods do we have in Liberia today? Are our educational authorities, taking this factor into consideration? What kind of teachers are there? Are they qualified? Elementary teacher is not just to take somebody and put them in the classroom. Do you have teachers that are prepared, or individuals who want to be in the classroom? Do you prepare them? It's not just the instructional materials, but people must have even the psychological understanding as to how is their kid looking. The kid comes to school, whether that child has been harassed from home, whether there is some mental problem, whether there is some difficulties. So there's a lot to which a teacher must be selected to be placed in the classroom. I'm not sure whether the Ministry of Education, and I apologize, I've now gone on the Education Ministry website to understand some of the intricacies of what are the factors affecting education. But indeed, I'm not sure that we have teachers like before. If I had someone like Tony Richardson teaching me chemistry, I took it as it was. I could look at each and every one of us who went to Tottenham High, we are proud of ourselves. If you say you had Emerson Roger teaching me math, you knew you had someone who knew the subject matter. Same goes for biology and other those stuff. So teachers and teaching methods, I think it's good we have a teacher here. I'm sure he's not just teaching what he wants to teach, but before the school year starts, he's given a curriculum and his teaching comes from there. His research is from those materials given him. So his presentation, not only that, I'm sure he's monitored every now and then. And I'm sure the students themselves also can monitor him and also grade him. If a lot of students are complaining about him, I'm not sure he will be in the classroom by this time. So teachers and their teaching methods are issues that we should also look at, or those educational authorities should be able to take into consideration. What kind of people are we having now? If you don't, we used to have teachers coming from Ghana. We have Mr. Akin from Ghana. He was teaching Tottenham High. He was a very good teacher. So if you don't have the caliber of people to teach secondary schools, primary schools, I mean, there's nothing wrong with hiring people from outside. In the same vein, you have teacher training institutes within Liberia. Are you preparing those institutions? Are you preparing them, providing funding, and bringing people to have series of workshops and prepare these people to go in the classroom? So we can look at educational content, the content of things. If you don't have a very good curriculum, as the brother said, I don't know what you're going to be teaching. Both private schools and public schools administrators, the Ministry of Education should synchronize the content of materials to be taught in high schools. In my days, if we said there was time, like the say first period, you will have almost all high schools in the Republic of Liberia teaching, for example, trigonometry or certain kind of math. So if people are teaching maybe just the method, but the curriculum was almost the same. So what is happening today? Do we have educational content across the board for teachers to be guided in what to teach? That's one factor I will look at. Another factor I will look at is the learning environment. We were looking at an elementary school in Maryland County. And for God in heaven's sake, the school building that we saw, you have cattle that go in the school building. You have cattle feces all in the building. And then you call that an educational, a place for students to go and sit and learn. The learning environment should be considered by those who are heading the educational authority. In the States here, when I went to Penn State, it was like a strange environment. I had to fight to overcome some of my own challenges. Because the first thing is you have teachers coming in class, they make presentations, and from there you have all the materials out there. You have to go and do your extra research. All of those things are recorded. If you miss certain aspect of the teaching, you have the opportunity to still go in the library and follow on. So the environment of the educational system in this, we think the government should have or should take the blame. Because the government, by and through the education ministry, they should be making day-to-day recommendations and ensure they have budgetary allocation to carry on these plans and to have the best content for Liberian students to learn. In the absence of that, you don't have school management is a very important aspect. And those who are leading those educational institutions, these people should study, all type of managerial skills to know exactly what to do. In the absence of having a proper management over a secondary school, you will have problems. And that could be one of the factors we will look at, and maybe we'll go detail into some of these things as the discussion continues.
Okay, thank you so much, Jensen. I'm coming back to CC. Or, you talk about the curriculum. And during my research, I was talking with someone, we're discussing this educational system. And the person talked about contextualizing the curriculum. That's what she told me. And then, knowing you be in the classroom for a while, I want to know what's the impact does it have on learning? Because, you bring material from somewhere else with different name and different season. Like in Liberia, we got only 2 seasons. And they take our material from here with 4 seasons. That's a total confusion over there.
But even here, I was just telling you how we're rewriting the math standards in the state of Minnesota. Every 10 years, by law in Minnesota, we have to go back and look at the state standards. Those are the requirements that say, well, from kindergarten to 12th grade, here's what you should know.
Right.
And every 10 years by law, we go back and look at it and make modifications. This year, I'm co-chairing that. So when was the last time we did that in Liberia? So context in education is very, very important. If I cannot internally visualize what you're telling me, it's very difficult for me to grasp that. In order for me to learn abstractly, I must be able to visualize what you're telling me about, right? So I'm in Liberia and somebody talk about two trains leaving Chicago, one leaving Chicago at 8 o'clock, one leaving Detroit at 2 o'clock. I'm first going, yo, okay, what's Chicago, what's Detroit? I don't know where that is.
Yeah, I know,
Right?
right?
But tell me two pimpin' driver. One of them leaving
What
Pittsburgh
going
red
to
line,
Pittsburgh?
the other one leaving Douala, and they're trying to get to red line at this time. Right? This one is traveling at this speed, and this one, how long, when does it take for both of them to intersect? Right? I got this girl on her phone. She's texting her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's on the other one, they're texting. How long would it take for those two pimpin' to be right next to each other so they can see each other? Tell somebody their math problem, and they will be excited to solve it because they all get on pimping.
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand that?
So true.
If I'm in a village, because I'm from Lofa, if I'm in a village in Lofa, and you are telling me that my parents have to go to Zaza to go sell, and you are telling me my mom got all of these beta boy and pepper, and how much should she sell it for to get this profit? We want to go to school, and this is your tuition. If your mom sells this much pepper and gets this, how much bigger should she make the farm next season so that she gets this much? Right? You're contextualizing what I need to know. Right? If you're trying to get me to measure the height of the mountain, don't tell me about Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm right in Lofa County. Let's do what it gives me. I'm right in Nimba County. Let's use the mountains in Nimba County.
I know.
Well, then how does that apply to when you're doing a West African examination?
That is the point. That is the point. I'm coming back to that. We should not do a West African exam, because if you do a West African exam, you're trying to tell people that we need to have a regional context. Here's what happened. How many literary books are used when the test for the region is being drawn that was written by Liberians? How many examples in there that actually reflect Liberia? None from the last time I've seen it, right? And so we come back to this argument, and this is the reason I say I was selfish when I said we should go back to a national exam where we nationalize our curriculum and we can contextualize our curriculum. Even if we want to do Mountain River, we can do it between Guinea, Liberia, and us, right? If you still want a regional flair on that. But if you're telling me that I'm taking a test and somebody in Ghana and I are being judged on the same test, but I don't have a curriculum that I can look at. So what people do is they teach to the test. You teach to the test because you're teaching the WIAC. People pass WIAC, and then you go and take LU entrance. And LU entrance is supposed to be based on Liberian curriculum. And then everybody fail LU entrance. But you pass WIAC, you fail the LU entrance. How does that make sense? Because we don't have a connection between what we're expecting people to know on WIAC and what the Ministry of Education say people are supposed to know to go to LU. So my point here is that if we were contextualizing education, we will be teaching Liberian civics.
That's right.
And testing kids on them, and teaching Liberian government in the school, and testing kids on them, and teaching Liberian history in the school. And then we can teach West African history, but so that tomorrow, because we all come back to this thing where we say we don't have an educated electorate. Well, where are they supposed to go to learn civics if we are teaching a regional, we have a regional curriculum?
Got a point there.
So we don't have an informed citizenry. And education is meant to have an informed citizenry. So when you ask me about contextualizing education, in Minnesota here, we actually are changing this thing where now we actually are looking at other things. We're looking at Native American contribution. We didn't have that in the curriculum before. We're looking at equity. We're looking at how to get anti-racism curriculum into mathematics. How do we decolonize the math classroom? Right? Because those are things that the parents and students have been telling us over the last 10 years that they need to see in their curriculum. In Liberia, we don't have a source of collecting what the parents want, even if we're still doing regional, even if we're still doing WIAC. When was the last time we start to say, well, how many kids are failing WIAC math? What content are they failing in WIAC math? Which schools are they failing these things in? How do we help those schools? How do we revamp our curriculum? How you asked about me being observed. I get observed 4 times by my principal and 1 by my instructional coach. My assistant principals get observed by the principal. The principal get observed by the district superintendent. The district superintendent gets observed by the school board, right? They are responsible for if the school is failing. You see those many layers? In Liberia, we have district educational officers, we got county educational officers. So in the county, the principal is supposed to access the teachers. The teachers are supposed to be assessed and observed by the district educational officer. The district educational officers are supposed to be observed by the county educational officers, and they are supposed to be accountable to the superintendent, who is then accountable to the nation if your state, if your county is failing. When was the last time we saw that accountability? We have the structures in Liberia. We're not just using them.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I found out yesterday when I was discussing with this person. She said there's no supervision of instruction. They hardly, only few schools. And she said the schools that does that, those are the private schools. She have personal, experience with the private schools. And, this is really, really sad. No wonder we see, the things that are happening, in Liberia school system. And I want to come back to Abby. What is,
before you go to Abby, let me just say this. I mean, just as the brother said, before in Liberia, MCSS, the Monrovia's Consolidated School System, was very forceful. Just as he's saying, all of the consolidated school systems, you had the MCSS doing all the issue of curriculum. People used to study all of these things almost every year. Like when I was in grade school, every academic year, there was a review process. Teachers were allowed, in fact, students were allowed to complain any teacher. But today, I don't know, and sometimes you think about it, it's almost like a system failure. Is the government emphasizing the importance of education today? What is the role of the education ministry? Like the structure that brother just talked about. Why can't the education ministry review these processes and see whether they can add or subtract and get the curriculum more accessible by all of the different high schools within the Republic of Liberia? If they need help, there are a lot of Liberians that are outside. Like for example, this brother is teaching. Why you think the Ministry of Education cannot look outside? Find some people who are outside. Look, I went to Qatar, I saw the fellow there, a Liberian there, who was heading an engineer company. And this guy said, look, I want to go to Liberia to teach. But when he got to Liberia, he was discouraged. And he found nobody pay attention to him. So he preferred to go back and say, look, I can't stay in this place. I'm already established in that country.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want this brother to go, look, if the people had good incentive, like this brother would have gone to Liberia to go teach. I know you might want to go and prepare students there. But this man's status has changed. You can't take him, came to Liberia, maybe his own living condition now. You can't pay him money that will be.
We take it to Liberia.
Yes. So there must be a way for the people to think without using their minds to prepare that country. We always see things going worse than what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. You talk about what the incentive, Jensen. That was another, discussion that I had with the person. She said there's no incentive. How will teachers want to go in the interior to go and teach? You have to pay a package.
You definitely have to pay teachers good salary. Prepare them.
You have
make
to
sure they are qualified, they are competent to be in the classroom. Then give them the salary they deserve. When someone is paid a very good salary, that man will sit at night to prepare his lesson plan and be able to go in the classroom. But the man is hungry, his own children, he can't feed them. The salary cannot commensurate with his own delayed, or expenditure. What is that man going to be doing? See that fellow we saw in Maryland, patient. That fellow in Maryland.
Yeah.
The man, they stood very alone. And see the man condition. I mean, sorry to say, it's like someone who's struggling to survive.
It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And we hope our people will pay attention to so many little discussions. They can pick up some of the pieces from these kind of discussions.
That was what she said. She said, incentives. Because like the video that I saw, there was nothing in the classroom. I mean, the teachers, the parents, they try as much as they can to give the teachers something so that, just to encourage them to maintain the school. But if you taking someone in our village, or there are village schools all over the place, but they hardly have any teachers. It's because nobody encouraging them to go there. So hopefully, Ministry of Education can look at, some of the things that are hindering people from going to faraway places and, make the right decision and to help those people. I want to ask Abby, what's the kind of environment that is conducive for learning? Because I know here, uh, one thing that I admire here, they encourage breakfast, because they don't want the children, their mind to be on their stomach, so they want to make sure they are fed, and then when you go to class, you ready to take all the instructions. And then I remember some long, long time ago when I was in elementary school, we had this feeding program going on in
Careful,
Liberia. I don't know who was really sponsoring that program, but that is something that people used to look forward to,
right.
you know. So with that, what are some of the other stuff that is good for the learning environment?
Well, like I said, proper nutrition. Making sure both your parents are, they may not be highly educated, but if they're educated too, they will encourage you to go to school.
Yeah.
But most of the people that we'll talk about, most of the people, they're kind of poor, and if they need you to work on the farm, you're going to work on the farm. If you also need adequate transportation. If I can't make it to school, I'm not going to go if I can't get in the bus or get in a cab or something like that to go to school, I'm not going to be able to go to school. So the government can provide some subsidy where you can get like free busing or something. It doesn't have to be a cab, free busing to go to school. Proper uniforms, or hopefully they wear uniforms, not street clothes, because nobody the competition and the ability to buy something. Just safety to him. But most of the time now, the people in school, and like the important thing is like making sure everybody's educated, the teachers are educated. But circling back to what they were saying by going in the village, I remember one time I was on another show way back in the day when I said, okay, you can't have these kids in school, you can build schools, and you can have teachers in there. And every time when I'm watching something, I'll see people will be saying, oh, I'm watching from this district in this way back county in Liberia or somewhere in some village. I said, well, if internet can reach there, and we have like the Khan Academy, all those different things, and we have YouTube and all. Wouldn't it be kind of nice if they have like in these different buildings, like bigger buildings, maybe like in a town hall, where you can put like a big screen TV and have like what we're doing now, something like that. And it was way before we even had
Yeah.
TV and all, and Facebook stuff, and put it up there, and the kids can come to school maybe 3 days a week. They come from the farm, they all sit there, and you have somebody from America teaching them. You can contextualize the teaching as well. But if that's not possible, you're just gonna have to learn about Chicago as opposed to think of, at this point we'll be like just take what you get, if
I know, right?
yeah, basically you learn, and at least I will be opening your views outside of what
You
yeah.
you talk.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about transportation. It reminds me of the video that I got recently about Mano school system in Liberia. These children, they had to walk for an hour
So it was great.
to
And that
go
should,
to where the school building,
yeah.
yes, is
And that's
located.
not safe. Like, think about it, if you're a girl or a young boy walking to school, and somebody can easily grab you. That with all
Yeah.
the kids that's
Look,
going in.
let me share the experience. Let me share the
Also,
experience.
yeah, also,
Let me share the experience with you guys. Clay Ashland on the other side of St. Paul River. You wouldn't believe it that children, innocent children, get in canoe every morning, and that was story I was told in 2011.
Hmm.
Children get on the river, that river, to cross and go towards Carwell for school every morning. And when the school is out, they get on the canoe and cross that river. Is that something to imagine? Isn't that frightening? What is the child going to
It
learn?
is.
You put
It
a
is.
child on that river, even as big as I am, don't put me on that river. I will be afraid. Much more to talk about a child.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of factors that is affecting the learning environment in that place. And until the people can realize that society crumbles if these things are not taken care of. Like the brother said, yeah, you can look at how you call it, all the mountains in the place and what have you. When I was in grade school, we were learning time for school. We were learning children that was in America going to school. The books were prepared, were American books. I think the curriculum is prepared. It doesn't matter what material you have. You can teach and also can bring examples of whatever you. That's why the man who's standing before the students to teach, he must be
It should be
knowledgeable.
experienced. Yeah.
You must know what he's telling the students. If you want to tell them about Chicago, if you think you have photo to share, right now it's so easy. The white man or people have made things so easy. The YouTube is there. Just tell such a child, say, you know what, we will teach for certain days. Let's say all these things again depends on the curriculum. People can provide video clips and all of those stuff and let children learn. And it's not just about teaching too many complicated issues to children. The fundamental thing, let the child knows how to read and write. Let them know that common arithmetic, and let them know how to protect themselves, hygiene, and all of those smaller stuff. Give them the foundation. When they get the foundation of life and learning how to read and write, then they take interest into education. The environment, when I was in grade school, we had buses, and that was a company school at the time. The Mountain River and the National Iron Ore Company was existing. Our parents were working with the company. And after we get promoted to the next class, they gave us a set of books. That was a joyful thing. That was one thing I used to admire. Before the school opens, I had all of my set of books. What is wrong with these things?
All those
Right
things
now?
that Mana River and Lamco, all those different places, I think with Firestone, not the poor people who didn't tap in, all those companies that did the right things were companies that were outside of Liberia. I used to sit there. I remember I used to go to Yekepa every summer. Okay. And we used to go there, and we literally, when we got out of Yekepa, dirt road. Meanwhile, Yekepa, they had, paved roads. They had the place. The houses were built nicely. All the workers, employees, whether they were high or low, they had decent living. You have good hospitals and everything. And I always said, why didn't the rest of Liberia take after all those companies that came from outside? Those things, to make America or Europe in Liberia. Why is it that the rest of Liberia didn't do that? When I look back, I'm like, why they never do that? But
as I speak to you, some of the places are forests. Like I'm talking about Mana River, right? When you Google, just go to Google Map and check on Mana River. I'm telling you, it's a grown up forest.
Okay. One question.
So,
what
a lot of things need to be done with Liberia. This education, and so we think all this.
A lot. Yeah. There are more private schools now in Liberia than public school. What's one of the reasons? Why is this so? Is that how it's supposed to be? I mean, you got more private schools, and if you look at it, like we said earlier, the people that are scoring high marks are those from the private school. Why are those private schools? Why are more? Why do we have more of them than the government schools?
This is easier to open a private school there.
I would think
and the private schools, most of them are not open by people that are educators. They are just open by business people that want to make business.
Well, education has become a business in Liberia. So sadly, that is the problem. It's almost like opening a shop. You get money, you open a school. One of my friends just told me, you open a school, you get a lot of money, and people see that as a money-making entity. But I think one of the biggest reasons is that it's abandonment. The governments, and not just this government, it's been happening since, ever since, is they've abandoned public education. And to your point about transportation, for example. Government can solve their transportation of students' issue if they just go back to prioritize public education. Right. If you go back and prioritize public education and you make those institutions viable and competitive, right? Like here, for example, I've had private schools come to try to get me to teach there. What I get paid in my public school is more than what the private school was offering me. Why am I going there?
Right.
Just to say I teach at a private school. Yeah. It's not at a private school, the level of accountability is even lower. Right. So people be like, oh, I thought at a private school, like, yo, man, if you come from some private school, like charter schools, and you come to public school to become a teacher, you lose the years that you can serve 8 years in a charter school, and you come to a public school, they don't take you as 8 years, they take you as 4 years. right?
Mm.
So that's because we prioritize public schools. So if you prioritize Tubman High, I live, my mom, I grew up right behind Tubman High there, behind the J.J. Robert fence is where I
Okay.
was where I grew up. All my siblings, all my uncles and stuff went to Tubman High. I never did, because again, the bad name of public schools were not good. So my mom and my dad would struggle to send me to Cathedral and other places. But if you focus on Tubman High and say we're going to make Tubman High very competitive, 0 to none, we're having the top teachers available. Well, people in Cinco, now your kids have to go to Tubman High. If you don't want your kids to go to Tubman High, then you're responsible to transport them. But if you make Tubman High great again, I know people that used to come from Nukutan to come to Tubman High. Right. And then you go to Nukutan, you make Detroit competitive. You make that #1 school. So everybody on the Bush Road Island sending their kids to Detroit. They don't have to be looking for transportation to come all the way down to MC. You come to Pinsville, you take the Bright Farm School over there. You make that #1, right, in that area. So you're prioritizing. What that does is it takes away the impetus for me to want to go to Monrovia. There are students that are in Pinsville that get up 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the red light and risking their lives just to get on the first car to get to Broad Street to go to Cathedral. Right? And it's risky. I've heard so many horror stories where kids were held at gunpoint, their backpack was searched, they're taken from them by these people referred to as Zogos, putting them at risk. You can resolve a lot of issues if you just go back and prioritize those public schools that are in those communities, make them attractive, make them competitive, pay competitive wages, and attract the best workers. So that the public schools is playing second fiddle to you, and the private school are playing second fiddle to you. If you can have public school defeating private schools, nobody wants to go to private school except for maybe, okay, I'm religious. I want to go to my religious school because, I'm a Catholic. I want to go to Catholic school. That would be the only reason you'll be going to Catholic school. It will not be because you think Catholic school is better than the public school. I usually envy. I used to envy my uncles that went to Tubman High. I really wanted to go to Tubman High because I saw the rigor that was coming out of Tubman High. Same thing with BWI. I used to envy.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to BWI. That was my first option when I came.
The best institutions, right? So what happened to that? What happened is abandonment. And
another thing I wanted to ask you, because you're the educator, what's the point? I went to Liberia in November, and there's this little boy, my nephew, and I asked, he said, "Oh, we're taking computer." I said, "This one is why." "Oh, we're taking computer." I said, "Really? That's so impressive. That's good." I said, "So you like working on the computer?" He said, "They bring a computer here." I said, "But how you take how you take the computer?" He said, "The teacher can go and write the notes on the board, and then we write." What kind of? The Ministry of Education need to discourage that. Why would you have computer and they're taking money from these people, from the parents, and you don't have the children? He said, "I said, well, how long you be in the school?" He gave me the number of, the months, and you have never seen computer. He said, "We don't have any here, but they're taking computer." What's that? They're just eating the book.
I remember when Zion was still in community college when they were right now where the Unity Party used to be before in Town. So I graduated RC Lawson during the war. So we used to walk. I wanted to go there to go do computer science. I remember back then you would go and you have to write all of your program by hand, and they had a computer room. You're going to see this one computer. Everybody look at it, and then the teacher will come and ask you to draw the computer and label the parts from memory.
Right.
Walk computer through the door, and that was your computer science. So
that was the computer lab.
But here's the thing they're trying to do, and they're trying to introduce STEM education, right? So the focus on the science, the technology, the engineering, the math, which is a good thing, which is the way most of the world is going. But you can't be teaching STEM without technology, right? The T is for technology. You can't be having kids imagine what the technology is. You got to make it available. That goes back to my point. I said access and quality, right? If you don't give them access to the technology, why are you thinking you're teaching them STEM? So real quick, I know one of the things my brother said was about, especially me. So I wanted to put something in the public space because I don't like to just go on platforms and talk about all of the things that are not happening, and just it kind of becomes like a negative space, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Ellen was in office, we have a program real fast. There's a program where a lot of countries do, but I know specifically about Egypt. What Egypt does is they will come to your school and say for me, I'm a 10-year teacher, Department of Mathematics chair. I've been 12 years teaching. They say, okay, yo, we need Mr. Goya to come back to Egypt and teach. They asked my school district, how much does he make per year? School district said 30,000 as an example. They say, okay, Mr. Goya, you're going to come back to Egypt to teach. We'll pay the $30,000 you make in America, but we give you a cost of living when you come to Egypt.
Right.
So I go to Egypt for 1 year. They don't keep me in Cairo. They send me down to the village to go teach and to teach or mentor people in the village over there, right?
Yeah.
When I spend my 1 year in Cairo and I come back, I don't lose my seniority. I still keep my seniority in my school. Here is how that benefit was. My school here will benefit because now I've gone out of the country. I will come back and teach them how to teach other students that are not just primarily Americans. So those teachers will benefit from my experience from teaching them here. My school will benefit. What does Carol benefit? Carol benefits a Western trained educator coming down and helping people down there to teach them. So that was a win-win situation. We offered that to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. She was excited about it. That was her way out. She said, well, can we implement that? She left office. We proposed the same thing to the CDC government. That nobody bid on it. The next thing we did was to say, well, I was a consultant on when we rewrote the SAT. I was a math consultant on writing the SAT. We wrote the SAT. So I know how to write content. I know I've done teacher training. I train teachers in my district. So I offered to the ministry. I said, yo, summers I'm off. If you pay my way to come to Liberia, I don't care what plane you put me on, pay my way and come to Liberia. I will support myself in Liberia. I will feed myself. I will lodge myself. I will transport myself. For 1 month, I will come and sit. We rewrite curriculum. We rewrite teacher training. I help teachers. But I wanted the government to have a skin in the game. I don't care if you bought me $800 ticket, but you had to have a skin in the game.
Of course.
I was ashamed for them.
Ready to make that sacrifice, and they were not ready.
There were people in government that told me, my man, you ought to pay away to go to Liberia for the pay away.
Because
they don't value,
So if you got people shaming me for putting that out, imagine how many other people were watching that and going, yo, I can't raise my hand to go up. The man is just telling you pay his way. $800 ticket, $900 ticket. Man, I'm gonna feed myself for 1 month. You're not paying. I'm telling you, my
helps yourself too.
I can just come in to help, and they refuse that. The offer had been on the table for a long time, but again, the problem with our people is that people are so comfortable being this little big fish in the pond. It's like Fiema. You go to Fiema, Buka is the chief there. It's the biggest fish there. But when you go to the Atlantic, Buka are the big fish. So people always want to remain Buka, so they always retain that little small pond and keep other people out. That is the problem that's affecting our educational system in Liberia. People just won't be Buka. They just want to have Fiema Swamp. They don't want to open it for us to go.
Well, hopefully that can change. Our time is fast spent. So quickly, this statement this person made, part of it. The person said that education is a joke, blah, 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 in Liberia. In fact, it is worse now under Josh Weah government. They are building more market halls. They're building schools. This is one of the things I was discussing with someone, I don't know who. And I said, why is it more markets are being built? Why don't we have, community colleges in all the different, counties or even university? Why they are not prioritizing education? So the person made a similar statement like this. But we are closing now because we don't have time. So as we close, I want to start from Abby. Just we have just 5 minutes and we'll be order here. So Abby, just give a quick respond to that text, to that message, and close. Give your closing statement in the process, and then we'll go to Jensen.
I think they're building more markets because that's what the people want. That's what they voted for. I mean, if you vote for something higher, and there's nothing wrong with market halls and all that, because my grandmother used to sell her stuff and all that, had to take care of her kids to go to school, and that's because that's where we are today, because her children grew up and all. But she always stressed education. So even if you're going to build a market hall, for every market hall you're going to build a school. So at least you're having people employed, and at the same time you got schools and you hiring competent teachers. So if you're going to do both. But the thing about Liberia, you don't have concurrent development. They just do one thing. It'll be like, everybody kill 10 cows, you dance for a marketplace. And then over here, this other sector, everything falling apart. How many hospitals have they built so far? How many clinics have they built so far? I know we're saying we have all of this, we have all of that. But when you go to those clinics and those hospitals, it's like, this is it? Okay. All right. So when people vote, people voted for what they wanted. And that's how it is. When you sit there, when you don't demand more, that's what you get.
Yeah.
And plus that was a time when George Weah was running for president, and then people were saying it's like we're tired of the elite, we tired, they'll take your book, we'll take our yeah, remember, and then everybody like talked down on education. So this is where we are. It's not
I
just him.
know.
It started way before him, but then when everything turned against the elites, quote unquote, this is where we are.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Jensen?
Well, I don't think education is a joke in Liberia. There are some serious professors in our country. There are some serious teachers in the country, but the system needs to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we think the education ministry is the statutory body that is responsible to review the educational system in our country and see what they can do to make it better. Without the education ministry, that managerial body, you're going to have these kind of problems in Liberia where teachers are not paid, qualified teachers are not in the classroom, students not being prepared to go to school, they don't take interest in education. That
Yeah.
to build market structures is nothing bad, but people are using it now as a political bait. You
Mm.
know, we had Raleigh before, right? Samuel Doe came,
Amen.
he built market buildings. Why? Because market women are in the majority. The votes are within the market with the market women. So let's build these
It's
market
with a
structures.
literate up.
Right. But even with that, in I can remember even the Dole regime, we had
Thank
nice
you.
schools. People
Thank you.
used to go in the market buildings and
Thank
at
you.
nighttime they go to class. I don't know
Thank
whether we
you.
still have nice school in Liberia today. And even the
Okay.
night
Thank you,
schools,
Mr.
people
Jensen.
were all, following the same curriculum. So, I mean, generally, the education ministry has bulk of the authority, and by extension, the president and entire cabinet. If this
Thank
should
you.
have been a cabinet discussion, there would have been something come out of it if they're all serious to do better for that country.
Thank you so much, Jensen. Sissy, you are muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so I want to follow up with my brother. I think there is hope. I think we can always turn this thing around. But like the sister was saying, we don't always have to do either or, right? We
Mm-hmm.
can do both at the same time, right?
Amen.
So what happens is in Liberia, literally, mediocrity is what we celebrate, right?
Mm.
And you were talking about a scholarship scheme real fast, where you're looking at students writing. People have learned to excuse mediocrity now to celebrate it. Well, that's the Queen's language. It's not our language. Well, forget that. You've been reading the Queen's language since kindergarten, right?
Right.
And you graduated high school in this one language, and you go to
Mm.
college in the same one language, and
I
you still
know.
don't know how to construct a simple sentence, and your excuse is, well, that's the Queen's language. Okay, then speak VAR. Let's go get it VAR. But you can't speak the VAR,
I
and
know.
you can't
And
speak
you
English.
can speak the quiz.
I can speak that to you. But then you
Oh,
can't speak the English either that you've been learning since kindergarten, and you excuse that to say, well, it's the
thank
Queen's
you.
language, it's not my language. I think we celebrate mediocrity. And
We
every time
need to
people
move.
talk about their degrees and what they've earned and how they toured to get to an education level, it's almost have seemed now that being educated is seen as a crime, like a sin. Like it's a
Right.
personal sin to be educated somewhere. Right?
Especially in Liberian
We
society.
have to change. It has to take a
We have
mindset
to change
change.
that mentality.
It has to
Yeah.
take that. Other than that, there's always going to be, when you in my school, real quick,
Yeah.
I teach 11 and 12 graders. Kids want to fit in. So I guess some kids are really, really smart, but because they hang out with a bunch of kids who don't like school, they dumb
Okay.
themselves. They fail my test purposefully so they can fit in. So they all can be dumb together. So nobody can say, oh, look at you, you want to be smart. More than that. So it's what happening right now in Liberia.
Thank you
If
so
you try
much.
to bring out your intellect, people say, oh, look at it one here, that what we eat,
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
gonna
no,
go
right.
outside? They shame you. So in order for you to fit in, you dumb
You
yourself down
are
to fit in.
conform.
And as you dumb yourself down, you dumb down our future.
That's
So we got
right.
to get back again to recognizing when it's been great for
Mhm.
education. That education is the way forward for our nation. If we continue
Amen.
to celebrate mediocrity and continue to look at education as a cardinal sin, we're going to continue having problems.
Okay. Thank you so much. I want to thank you guys for uh, gracing this platform, and the discussion was very, very rewarding. And I believe that all the recommendations that were put forward today hopefully we can have some of our people listening and they can do likewise. I mean, implement some, if not all. So thank you so much for joining us. And we want to say for those that are sick tonight, we say by the stripes of Jesus, you are healed. And we also speak healing to the educational system in Liberia. We pray that our people will have access to quality education and whatever it takes, the resources, whatever training that has to be done, whatever it takes to take Liberia from where it is right now to where it ought to be, will be done. And then we'll see a better improvement in our educational system. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Health Matters, and I'm your humble servant, Pastor Patience. God bless you tonight. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.